Okay. So last week we discussed anger management or changing or controlling or working on yourself. So last night I was like, what's the next on our list? Right? What should we discuss? So I came up with patience as something what we always need between our children, our husbands, our challenges, work, relatives, friends, life, stress. It's something we could all always, I'm sure, need a little help in. And like most virtues, it's really beneficial for ourselves as well. And a lot of times when we think of patience, we think of it as like something I need for the other person. Like I'm getting upset at them, so I need to be patient with them for them. And we don't realize always that patience is this huge, wonderful gift actually for me. Actually, it's really beneficial for me to be patient with other people and events. Patience isn't only with people. I mean, you're stuck in traffic and you need to be patient. It's not a person, it's that thing. You're going through a stressful situation in life and you need patience. It's not a person that you're getting upset with, it's life. But patience really helps me because first of all, it helps me be more relaxed. It helps me be a friendlier, nicer person. Not just with this one person. In general, I'm patient. I'm more tolerant. I'm not so judgmental. I'm not so fast to get upset. When I'm patient, as we'll discuss tonight, it's going to help me better focus on goals, especially long-term goals. You need patience for long-term goals. Patience helps me make more rational decisions. When we're impatient, then we're angry, then we're frustrated, then we're tense, then we often make very spontaneous decisions that are not very helpful, but at the moment, that's what I feel I have to do. And if I'm patient, my emotions haven't clouded my reason, and I can actually make, for myself, a more beneficial and more rational decision. If I'm patient, I'm less prone to outbursts. I'm not going to explode on anyone because I'm patient, so I'm not about to explode. And if I'm patient, I'll probably learn more things because I won't give up. You know, you're trying to handle your computer and it's so frustrating. Now I'm getting frustrated at a computer or at this new app on my computer. You know, computers never function the way they're supposed to. So they're a very easy target for our impatience. And if I'm a patient person, it's not just I'm not going to be impatient with my kids. I won't be impatient with my computer. So I'll actually learn how to handle it instead of just giving up because it's so frustrating. And I'm going to probably have better mental health because I'm going to absorb less stress. Because the more impatient I am, the more life in all of its little and big stuff stresses me out. That's what's happening. I'm impatient, I'm stressed. And the more stress inside, the more it wears down my mental health. So all of those things had nothing to do with you don't want to vent and not handle your child properly, or your husband, or your neighbor, or your mother-in-law. This is all how I am going to benefit a lot by adding in my patience. So I want to start with high motivation. So then we could work and feel like, okay, I mean, last week we did all this work on anger. Now I'm asking you to work on something else. So I want you to realize this is really good for you work. It's definitely worth it. Now, I'm going to give a lot of different ideas. I think I have like 12 that I came up with last night, thinking, what can I say? What can we do to help ourselves in this? But before we begin, we should begin by each person sort of identifying what is the area where their patience is a little thin, like their patience level. Because there's sort of like three different types of patience. There's three different types of arenas where we need to be patient. There's interpersonal patience, like with your children or your employees or your employer, with your mother, with your mother-in-law. That's when I'm dealing with people. Now, again, maybe some people push my buttons more than others, But in general, I have to have patience when I'm dealing with people. Then there's hardships. And a lot of times when we're going through hardships, we need to be patient. We need to be patient to know, like they say in Hebrew, Gamze Ya'avar, this too will pass. There's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. The wheel will turn. I have to have patience to know things will get better in God's time. So that's a whole different arena of patience. And then there's patience with the little daily hassles like crazy lines going for Kiwi kids, or at the airport, or traffic like at 11 o'clock in the morning. Like, what's traffic? Why is there traffic now? And then you need a different type of patience to handle those things and not get frustrated. Are you getting frustrated at a person? No, you're just getting frustrated. So inside yourself, there's all this stress and pressure and tension building because you're frustrated at the annoyances of life. So it's good for you to sort of like think of yourself, and I'm not asking for your information, but for asking yourself, do I get impatient with people? Do I get impatient when I'm going through hard things in life? Do I get impatient with the hassles, the daily stresses of life? Because when we're going to talk about tools to improve your patience, you need to know where you need to apply them. Now you might say, hey, I mess up on all three. I lose it with people, I lose it with hardships, I lose it with life. My patience is nil for everything. Okay, so then you have a lot of stress in your life. Because the more impatient you are, the more that's creating self-created, self-evoked stress. So you have high need to really try to grab these skills and help yourself. Or a person could say, no, my biggest problem is that area. Okay, good. And the reason why I want you to figure it out is, so as I talk, you can sort of envision yourself applying this to that specific area. All right, so before I start talking, any questions? All right. So I said it's awesomely beneficial. Nobody vetoed that. I discussed where you need patience. Nobody disagreed. So how do you achieve it? That's, of course, what we want to discuss tonight. So a lot of different ideas, but the first one is turn to God for help. Meaning, I'm going to give you, I guess this is one, so I'm going to give you 11 different pointers. And maybe one will resonate, maybe two will resonate, maybe if it's a good night, 3 will resonate, and you'll work. And it will be amazing. And then what probably is going to happen is you're going to get distracted and forget to work, and you're going to lose it. And then you'll feel, oh, this is impossible. Or maybe not. Maybe you will be really motivated and you know you really need this, and you're going to keep working and working and working. And sometimes the tools are going to help. And then sometimes a really big challenge is going to come and your tools won't cut it. And you need to turn to Hashem. He's your father. He's your partner. He's there for you. And oftentimes, like literally during the situation itself, when you feel that very bad line, I can't handle this, which is a really poisonous line that we should not allow ourselves to think. But if it comes into your head, that very, very taboo line, I can't handle this, consciously in your mind, turn to him and ask him for the skill to handle this situation that you are currently enduring not very well. Ask him for the situation to change. Ask for both. You should have the skills and the situation should change. And he responds. And when I'm in a difficult situation, I dive into Hashem during the situation, as I'm engaging in the situation, to make things shift, to make things improve. Some things are really, really, really tough. And you're going to have great skills, but some things are really tough. So that should be like our A1 awareness that we can always turn to Hashem for help. And he's there for us. Now, if we're impatient with a person, something that helps sometimes, now again, that doesn't help a traffic jam. crazy line of Kiwi kids. That doesn't help for that. But if it's a person that's getting you upset, and if the person's a Jew, it's good to think about the value of the person that you're right now interacting with. To really remind yourself that every Jew is Atmos. Atmos means from the very essence, fabric of God himself. God's essence, every single one of us. It says that when Mashiach comes, there's going to be shifts, obviously, in the world. The world right now is if we call it natural world, and it's going to shift into a supernatural world. And there's going to be candies on trees, and there's going to be the resurrection of the dead, and those are pretty big shifts. But the biggest shift the world will experience is when the world, the entire world, the whole Milky Way galaxy, and all the spiritual worlds shift in their awareness of self to recognize that all of creation is only an extension of God's energy. Right now, my pen thinks it exists. It has an identity. It's a pen. It actually works, so it's a higher level pen. When Mashiach comes, at a certain point, there's going to be this very, very deep shift, and this pen will know it's not its own thing. It's an extension of God's energy. So it's almost like a lessening of existence for all the angels, for all the Gan Edens, for all the spiritual galaxies, for all the physical galaxies, for this piece of paper, for the 8 billion people on planet Earth. It's going to be a lessening of their existence in a sense, because they have such a deep, deep awareness that what they are is God's energy in some various permutation, except for the Jews. Because when the whole world gets this deep, deep click, the biggest change, much bigger than the candies and much bigger than the resurrection of the dead. For the Jewish people, it's going to go the other direction. Because every single Jew is going to recognize that he is a living piece of God's essence and being, of Atmos, of the very fabric of God himself. So that's a tremendous enhancement of our energy. Oh my gosh, this is what I am. I never realized what I was. I'm the prince in disguise to myself. I'm a piece of God's very essence and being. So that's what a Jew is. So when it's a Jew that's driving you crazy, when it's a Jew that's making you so frustrated and pushing all your buttons, you could stop, breathe deeply, and remind yourself of that. Remind yourself of the enormous value, the infinite value of this person that's making me crazy right now. And when I'm getting frustrated or annoyed or impatient, I'm getting frustrated, annoyed, and impatient with the peace of God, with a piece of the very essence of God. So if this person is so valued, so special, I can breathe. Breathing helps a lot, and handle myself. And I'm essence too. So I'm far more equipped and powerful than I realize. If I understand a little bit of their power and specialness, and a little bit of my power and specialness, I can handle this. I can handle this person. I can respect and treasure this person, and I won't lose it with them. So that's one way to help your patients if it's with a person and if the person's a Jew. Another idea that's not exactly a tool, but just a really important thing to understand in the other direction, like this is sort of the turn from the negatives, is how addictive our negative responses are. If my go-to is anger, which I hope if it was, you got rid of it last week. But if my go-to is anger, if my go-to is irritation, outrage, blame, shame, if any of those things are how I naturally knee-jerk respond when I'm not getting my way, remember we discussed this last week, it was from a commented, that this is really all a response to me not getting my way, it starts off with sort of almost like a physical manifestation, maybe like a tightening, maybe like a tension, maybe a discomfort in my body. And then like I'm interpreting that things are not going my way. And then I start having this storyline in my brain, right? We know these storylines in our brain. I've never seen such incompetence. How could they? Don't they realize? Did they do this on purpose, or are they just ignorant? And this is literally like a type of addiction, an addicting behavior. So we need to identify it as such, to reject it, and to substitute a commitment to act as if I'm patient, as we'll discuss later, and keep acting as if until it becomes natural. In other words, a lot of times what I'm trying to say here is a lot of times we forgive our inappropriate responses. We don't think they're so inappropriate because the other person was wrong. I had to wait, and I was there first, and the person, whoever I'm dealing with, went to someone else. Well, I was in line before them. I mean, obviously my anger is valid, and my outrage is valid, and my response is valid, and they're very, very, very wrong. So I sort of like jump into that like indignant, impatient, irritated space very quickly because I'm very accustomed to feeling that way. And we have to really like think and say, no, done. That's gullus. That's exile irritations. That's exile behaviors. I don't need to feed into those addictions. It's a more subtle addiction maybe than some, but it's also an addiction. I don't need to feed into it. Another idea, I'll give you one more, and then, hi Lisa, and then we'll maybe stop you'll have questions, is recognizing we're human. We might be in our 20s, we might be in our 30s, we might be in our 40s, we might be in our 50s, we might be in our 60s. We might have been misbehaving for a long time. So it's going to take us a while to change. Change is not so fast. Now, obviously, for some of us, it might be far faster than we ever imagined. And for some of us, it's going to be far slower than we ever imagined. So it's really important to remember all the benefits of being patient that I began tonight with. We have to recognize that we're helping ourselves. Because sometimes if I'm just doing it to help someone else, that should be enough motivation, but it might not be. So I want to constantly remind myself anything that resonated for you in that list, and really understand that this is a tool that's really, really, really going to help me. And as long as I keep working on it, it will happen. Again, I can't tell you how long it's going to take because it depends on you. You might turn over completely in 3 months, or in a year, or in a year and a half. It shouldn't take a year and a half. But however long it takes, it will eventually happen. You will eventually get there. If you keep walking the road, you will eventually get there. And until you get there for real, you'll get there for fake, which also is very helpful. So just keep reminding yourself that you really want this for you. This is really beneficial for you. You need to lessen the stress in your life. And if this is going to do it, this is worth it. Whatever, whichever one of those benefits were like, yeah, I want that one. And then just keep working at it, and keep working at it, and keep working at it, and you will get there. But in the interim, remind yourself of why you want to keep working on it. Any questions or comments thus far?
Hi, Robertson.
Hi.
Hi. I want to maybe also mention something with regard when you said how like the impatience and can be like very addictive behavior. I think it's also important to kind of be aware of your surroundings and the people that you surround yourself with, because you know, people can often be very negative or very impatient, and then that kind of rubs off on you. And then it's important, if it's something that you've been working on, to make sure that other people don't kind of like take you back, and that you stay strong in your own development.
That is such a true point. And it's so interesting because one of the things I'm going to mention is changing your environment to remove temptations. And what you're saying, Miriam, is a big piece you need to be aware of in your environment is people. People, not meaning people that irritate you as much as people that are negative themselves. And if there's a negative person around, it's very likely to rub off and sort of give a pass on your own negative behavior, especially if your negative behavior isn't as bad as their negative behavior. That's a very, very true point. I'm going to add it because you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. What Miriam's saying, of course, is not only true for patients. A lot of what we're going to discuss tonight is not only true for patients. Apply it to whatever you're working on in life. So what she's saying is globally true. Whatever you're working on, if you're surrounded by negative people, dysfunctional people, easily angry people, she's right, it rubs off. And it makes our own behaviors like kosher, because we're not like them. So what we're doing is for sure kosher, especially if they're doing this to us or just around us. So that's a very, very, very true point. Now, of course, some people say, I would love to change. I don't have the ability to change that. But if we do have the ability, we can make that true change. And if we don't have the ability, we have to do it inside. In our mind, we have to sort of create like a fortress, a wall, a barrier. So what's around us outside is just like a lot of noise, but it doesn't get in. You have to very consciously envision it like you have walls of protection. So there's stuff around you in the same room, but it doesn't get in. That's a very, very true point. Thank you for sharing. Someone else, any other things they want to add or question? Okay. So we spoke about remembering that you really need to do this for yourself, reminding yourself of that, turning to Hashem for help, understanding the addictive energy here, understanding how precious the Jew is that's pushing your buttons. Deep breathe. I mentioned it before, but I really see this helps. If you feel you're losing it, 3 or 4 slow, deep breaths help. Exhale for twice as long as you inhale. And then you could do like I teach my son, squeeze your hands and just envision you're squeezing out all the tension, all the pressure, and then shake them out, put them down, and tell yourself you're super relaxed. If you weren't super relaxed, you need like 10 breaths, not 4. I do this with my 8-year-old with Beryl, and like I just start like when I see he's getting frustrated, and he like looks at me like, I'm not gonna do that, mommy, and I just keep doing it. Like this, like I love doing this. This is so cool. And then he starts, and he usually starts something like this, and then he sort of gets in the rhythm of it, and he just sort of relaxes into it, and he really, really breathes. And I really see the frustration leaving him. It's very calming. It really like you're pulling in that oxygen that you physically need. It's just physiological. You need it. It really helps you relax. So it's a very practical little tip. And it's really good to model for your children because you'd like them to do it too. So you do it and you teach your children to do it and you tell your friends how much it helps you and it works. It's not the cure-all. It's obviously only a little piece, but it works. Another thing that's good for us to remember if we're working on patience is that impatience creates stress, and stress is harmful. Who is it harmful to? It's harmful to me. If I'm impatient, I'm going to be stressed. If I'm going to be stressed, I'm harming myself. So don't let it happen. breathe deeply. And whatever strategy you choose, prioritize it. Prioritize it. In other words, it's like I have a choice. I have patience or I have my addiction of frustration and anger. And choose which one you're going for. Am I going for the gift of patience? And am I going for the indulgence of frustration or the indulgence of anger? And I'm giving myself a gift when I choose patience. I'm not just giving my child a gift. I'm not just giving my husband a gift. I'm giving them a gift also when I'm patient. But it's beneficial and healthy for me. I'm giving myself a gift every time I choose patience over anger, patience over frustration. Remember, it's impatience, stress, harm to me. So I'm the beneficiary. And a lot of times we have to really think of it that physically, like think of it like impatience, stress, harm, patience, anger, like literally act it out in your brain when you're relaxed, like now in the class, hopefully. I don't know what's going on behind your screens, but hopefully. So like you really like drill it into yourself. Do I want to gift myself with patience or indulge in anger? Like, why would I do that to myself? Why choose harm when I could choose a gift? Make it very, very clear in your head. It's never a gift to anger. It's never a gift in outburst. No, but then they'll listen to me. So what are you doing? Teaching them to scream? It's never a gift irritation. It's never a gift impatience. Those things are never gifting. Not only they're not gifting anyone else, they're not gifting you. Patience is a gift. It's a gift to the other person, and it's a big gift to me. And the next thing I wanted to say, as Miriam jumped ahead to that very, very true point, is when you're working on patience, at least when you're working on it, as much as possible, change the environment to remove the temptation. If you're trying to lose weight, hopefully you don't have loads of junk that you like, or if you're desperate, you'll eat in your house. And why would you do that to yourself? Well, you have no choice because you have kids, you have to give them junk. Okay, so, but in an ideal world, if you're trying to lose weight, you don't have the junk in your house. It just is normal. Why would I put something to tempt me when I'm trying to control myself? So similarly, if it can be controlled, not everything can be controlled, of course, try to remove the temptations that cause you to lose your patience. If you have a hard time with slow traffic, well, hopefully you don't schedule an appointment downtown at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 9 o'clock in the morning. Now, you could sometimes have no choice because that's the only slot available, and it was only available after 3 months wait. So you took it, knowing it's going to be difficult for you. And then you hopefully prepared yourself in advance. But sometimes you have a choice. If you have a choice, don't do that to yourself. As Miriam said, if you can choose the people that are around you, make healthy choices. If you can't choose them, create those walls. But think of your environment. Remember, I said in the beginning that my impatience might play itself out interpersonally. My impatience might play itself out with the little daily junk that we all deal with. My impatience might be expressed by big situations where I have to have patience to like get through the long haul. I said, identify your issues. Identify where you're stressed. Identify what triggers your impatience. And then plan accordingly. If it's this person, what can I do to change that person is not going to create that impatience, stress, harm in me? If it's this situation, what could I do to remove that situation or change that situation? So, I mean, I'm working on changing myself, but listen, let's work on changing ourselves and try to have as least problems as possible. So think about that in advance, not in the moment when there's nothing to do about it, but in advance. If you know you're going to an event and there's going to be someone there that's really difficult for you to handle, think, well, do they usually come late? I'm going to come early. Do they usually come early? I'm going to come late. Play it, figure it out, so you're not unnecessarily under the gun. It will be so anyway, but at least not extra. We'll just deal with what we got to deal with. Any questions or comments on any of that?
I do actually have one question.
Sure.
When we dive into a shim for patient and we're trying our best to create the patient, so I did observe that patient is, a gift. It's totally true. But sometimes in our life, we're trying to reach up a goal, but it takes so much time and so much pressure going on. So when we dive into Hashem, we don't always feel that Hashem is giving us the patient. So my biggest question is, it's like, maybe the best thing to have patience, like I learned that sometimes when you have too much pressure and you're getting impatient, and the best way to avoid the temptation, how we say, is to stop yourself for a moment, to go somewhere that's relaxing you and like slow things down. Like say to yourself, Hashem, you have the time, you have the rights, and it's not always easy to accept it. It's not easy always to create the patient.
So you're saying, Sarah, I just want to play back to you because the connection wasn't so clear. I couldn't hear you perfectly. It was a little muffled. So you're saying that if you're in an environment that's triggering your impatience, and you have the opportunity to like physically step away from the environment, put yourself in another place that's going to calm you down, and then when you go back into that environment, you've re-energized yourself so you can handle it better.
Yes, exactly. It was just my point.
Perfect. That's a very good point. Can we do that? Yeah, sometimes if you're really losing it in your house, walk out the door, take a walk, go into your car, drive somewhere. Yes, sometimes you can. Obviously, sometimes you can't. If you're in a line and you need to stay in the line, unless someone's going to hold your spot, you're stuck. But yes, that's a very, very, very good tip. That's a very good tip. Just physically remove yourself from the situation to just like regroup and then come back, and you'll have new calm. And you, as you're going outside, do a lot of that deep breathing I was speaking about. And then you come back and you'll have the tools, you'll be more calm. A great idea. Yes, absolutely. I'm going to add it because I think it is very practical. And there are lots of situations we can physically remove ourselves from. There are lots we can't, but there are lots we can. And that's a very, very, very good idea.
What I learned, I'm sorry.
No problem. Keep going.
What I learned is that the more you calmer, the more patient you get, because if you don't have the anger, like you're saying, it's much easier, like for example, when you're in an environment, let's say if you're not feeling comfortable, like we said, we have to step out sometimes, but I would like to share that in my experience, sometimes when you're doing too much at the same time because you don't have patience, and you're trying to get this done and this done and this done, it's really like overwhelming, and it's really like causing us so much like tendency and so many angers. So I learned the best way to create patience is, first of all, to calm yourself down, slow things down, and take one step at a time, and then you reach the goal. But the more you have patience, the more gifts you get. That's how I learned.
So you're right. So what Sarah's saying, that's also a very good point, which I was sort of touching on, but didn't say so clearly. She expressed it better, is this idea of when you slow things down for yourself, you actually will achieve that goal because you'll have the patience to achieve the goal.
Yes, exactly.
We are impatient, we're sabotaging ourselves because we won't achieve the goals because we don't have the patience needed to achieve the goals. So yes, I mean, I touched on it very briefly, and you are absolutely right. It was very, very clear the way you expressed it. This slowing things down, having the patience will get you what you want. It will over time. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Anyone else has something they wanted to add or question? Okay. So another very important point. This is really, really important to me. This is not only true for patients, it's true for everything you want to change about yourself, everything you want to change to be better at. And I envision it like the mask and the man. And whatever good quality we're trying to achieve tonight, patience, envision it as a mask that you are wearing that is very, very firmly attached to your face. It's molding itself to your features. And the longer you wear it, the more it sort of like sinks in. The mask just sinks in and it becomes you. This is true for every good trait you want to acquire. Act it and you will become it. There was an incident with the third Lubavitcher Rebbe, referred to as the Tzemach Tzedek, after a famous work of his, that a person once came to him and said, Rebbe, I'm not happy. And the Tzemach Tzedek responded, act happy. He said, but I'm not happy. And the Rebbe said, when you act happy, the happiness will come. That is such a golden rule for everything we want to achieve, for every good trait we want to acquire. Pretend, like, you know, they say, fake it till you make it. Pretend you are patient. Think of a super patient person you know and act as you think she would. Or some of us might think to ourselves, act how I would act if someone whose opinion I cared about was watching. Act how I would behave when so-and-so is in my house. My mother, my mother-in-law, my neighbor that's going to tell the whole block. Act how I would act when they're around. That's acting not as I am, but really as I am. So it's really me deeply buried underneath. It's not a total fake out, but for now it might feel that way. That's fine. The more I walk this road of positive actions, of behaving as if in anything, in any good quality you want to achieve, you want to change the degree of love you have for other people, you want to change your compassion barometer, your empathy, same rule. Any quality that you wished you had, any good quality, because in essence, of course, like we said before, hey, we're a piece of God. We've got infinite power. We're infinitely perfect inside. I just need to like pearl it out. So it sounds so simplistic. It sounds too simple to be true, but it's very true. That's why I told you a Rebbe story. So you should know it. Don't just believe me. It's very, very, very true. Any good trait I want to acquire, all I need to do is act that trait and keep acting and keep acting and keep acting, keep envisioning so-and-so who's such a star in this, keep envisioning my mother-in-law's right next door to right next on my side and how I would do it in front of her, keep faking how I think patient people behave, whatever works for you. Keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, and the mask becomes the man. And truly, in truth, you stop acting. You've acquired it. You've changed yourself. So that sounds so simple. We should all be so amazing. Because this probably isn't the first time you've heard me say this. It might not be the second or third time you've heard me say it either. So why are we not as amazing as we should be? Because we forget. That's what happens sometimes. The hard part often is to remember. Because the most natural thing is to behave the same way I've behaved the past 30 years, or 40 years, or 50 years. So me as for tonight, my impatient self, if that's how I am, I'm going to most naturally go in that direction. I mean, that's me. So therefore, I have to work hard. It's not a hard thing to do, but I have to work hard because it's hard not to do what I'm used to doing. It's like, it sounds so easy. Just pretend I was so-and-so. I know exactly how she would behave. Pretend someone's watching me. I know exactly how I behave when someone is around. But to constantly remember that, that's the challenge. But if you constantly remember it and you keep acting as if you were someone else, at least in this area, gradually, the mask becomes you. You will become patient, truly. It will be you. And that's a huge gift. It's not just a huge gift you're giving your husband. It's not just a huge gift you're giving your children. It's not just a huge gift you're giving your colleagues. It's the hugest gift you're giving yourself. So what I think is a good idea is to think of a situation where you usually fail. in terms of patient. A generic situation like, oh, with this person or with this challenge, with this thing that pushes my button, or you can just think of a recent situation where you blew it. And if you can just take that one situation or that one type of situation and really commit, next time I'm going to pass, I'm going to do it right. My acting is going to be superb. I will be so patient, at least in that situation. Because why am I suggesting you do this? Because a lot of people, often we feel like stuck. This is me, like Sarah said. She's working on this a long time. She's been diving to Hashem for this for a long time. People can feel like, you know, this is me. I know it's not great. I know it's self-harm. I know I'm adding stress to my life, but whatever. I've got a lot of problems. But providentially, Hashgacha practice is what we're talking about tonight. So I want you to know you do have the power. And if you take a certain situation or even one specific situation or with that person or when that time of day or with those people, and you'll be very conscious and focused, then you'll see, oh, I can do this. I really do have the power. I really do have an ability I didn't realize I had. I'm more skilled than I thought I was. And that affirmation will help the next situation, which will help the next situation. Success breeds success. And obviously the opposite is true as well. So we'd like to create successes. So really, if you can think for just a few seconds, if you can think of a time when you usually lose your patience, and then I know when I lose mine, and then actually now I'm thinking more than one situation where I lose mine, and really trying those situations, just in those situations, to use some of these tools we're talking about. Okay, well, I thought of a number. I thought quite of a number, actually. So hopefully other people came up with ones as well that they can really commit to themselves, that in those situations, they're going to be different. Another strategy to create patience is taking, this is a different type of patience, but it creates patience in general that will apply also to maybe the situations we were thinking of, is train yourself when making decisions to look long-term. Thinking long-term is a patience. Just as I said, if a person's going through a hard time, they need patience to like remind themselves, this is going to pass, things will change. You know, if right now you're not feeling good because you're pregnant and then afterwards you're gonna have a newborn, okay, but you know, like give it 3 months past that or 6 months past that, it will get better. Or right now you just started a new job, well, give myself 3 months, it won't be a new job, it won't be as draining. You know, like looking at things long term. Oh my gosh, the summer's coming, the summer's so hard. It'll be September before you know it, you know? So training yourself to think long term is like the art of a patient person. So how you're going to practice this is when you're making decisions, always weigh the long view. Deliberately. We're doing this to refashion you into a patient person. It's a technique to become more patient. That's the point. Because part of being a patient person is not just being patient with an annoying person. Part of being a patient person is being patient on the inside, for real. So if I'm patient on the inside for real, I'm patient with life. I'm patient with the developments of life. So I'm going to take time to think about the long-term impact of my decisions. How will this play out a year from now? How will this play out 5 years from now? It really helps train you to become patient, not just in response to frustration, but as a general way of life. You know, Sarah said before, she said it very well. Sarah was saying how like you jump. Like imagine, I don't know, you're doing an assignment and you have no patience. So you open your phone and see who WhatsApped you, and then you have to get back to work. But then you have no patience. So you open your phone and see if you got an email. You didn't get any emails. So you go back to work, you still don't want to work. So you give yourself 3 more minutes, and then you open YouTube and just scroll down all the things or that they're showing you that you'd be interested in watching. You don't open up any of them, but it could take you 20 minutes just to scroll down everything. Like, because you don't have the patience to just do what you have to do. So it's not like a patience of like getting impatient at a person. It's like an inner state of being of patience. And we have an inner state of being of patience. You know, this might be unpleasant. You know, you might like want to write this article or read all these pages or, you know, whatever, do the tasks that work is demanding, you know, write up an inventory, whatever it is. Plan your pace off cleaning, plan everything you have to buy for all of your children going off to camp. But you're just going to develop that sense of like an inner space of patience. Don't allow yourself to jump to other things. So that's like impatience. Like, I can't sit and do this, so I'm just gonna open my phone. I think we're getting more and more impatient, we're getting more and more edgy because we always have the phone beeping away and like, it seems more interesting than what I'm doing right now. Which sort of flows into another very not done now technique that helps develop patience, and that's meditating. You need to have patience to meditate. And through regular meditation, you increase your patience. So it works in both directions. What does meditation mean? I mean, you know, it sounds like this big word. What does it mean? Meditation basically means managing your thoughts to focus on one thing, which is, again, we're an ADD generation. It's really hard for us. But it's a wonderful thing to do. And probably for ourselves, the best time to do it is before we daven. Take an idea you learned about davening and slowly, meditation is slow. If it's fast, it's not meditation. You can't speed meditate. That doesn't work. Slowly go through all the details that create the concept. Carefully, slowly, precisely. Fill your mind with it. I mean, try for 2 minutes. Like, I think if you could do it for 2 minutes, that's awesome. It's a muscle to just think about one thing, not let yourself remember about the laundry and the lunches and something else you have to add on your shopping list. No, then you blew it. Just this one thought for like 2 whole minutes, 120 long seconds. It's great for davening and it's great for your patients. Dina.
Hi, Mrs. Turin.
Hi, Dina.
I was wondering, I know that a big trend nowadays is like mindfulness practices. Is that the same thing?
It's similar, but I'm saying to do it in a way of Kedusha, to do it in a godly way. Meaning when I'm saying meditation, if I was speaking more with Hebrew, I would say hisbonenus or hisbonenut, you know, to really use it as a tool for serving Hashem. But mindfulness, yes, mindfulness is thinking about your thinking. And meditation is a form of that because it's a very conscious thought process. Like you're very focused on watching your thinking when you're meditating, because you have to watch your thinking, because if you suddenly start thinking about the laundry, you lost it. Or suddenly remember an errand, you lost it. So yes, mindfulness, modern day mindfulness probably would include meditation as a technique. And Yiddishkeit, Judaism, believes in meditation, but it's not really something I would normally speak about because it's not really something like, you know, most of us are thinking we're working at. The reason why I brought it in is because it really develops patience. Mm-hmm. To meditate requires patience. Again,
how do you do it? I'm sorry.
You're saying 2 minutes of patience, like what's the big deal? But it's very hard. It's very hard for most of us for 2 minutes to only think about one thing. So it requires a lot of patience. And if you do it on a daily basis, well, obviously, as a daily basis, you can build up from 2 minutes to 2.5. You might get to 5 minutes someday. You might get to 10 minutes. I don't know if you give yourself enough years, but it will really enhance your davening, and it will really enhance your patience. So that's why I brought it in. But yes, the mindful perspectives and psychology of today definitely use meditation. Absolutely.
But how do you do exactly through the Kedusha meditation?
So what I'm saying in Kedusha, what you do is, it's hitbonenut. And what you do is take an idea you know. It's not, you're not learning something when you meditate. Meditation is only something you absolutely know cold, like perfect. Because your brain can't be like trying to figure it out. Your brain is just like reviewing it. So take that idea. So if it's davening, which I think is the best time, according to, Judaism, to meditate would be as a introduction to your prayer. So take the time and think of one idea, ideally an idea that has to do with prayer, or it could be an idea that inspires you about God in general. And think detail by detail about the concept, as if like you were reading the Dvar Torah in your brain, point by point by point, and let those ideas fill your mind and don't let anything else in. And I'm saying try for 2 minutes. You can put a timer on. It's a long 2 minutes when that's all you're letting in your brain, because our brains are so trained to jump, to jump, to jump, to jump. But the idea of meditation is we don't let anything in but that thought. And then with that, daven. So it will enhance your davening. And the reason I'm bringing it in, because we could say like, whoa, that's really high level stuff, is it will really enhance your patience. It will very much work that muscle on a daily basis. So it will really be very helpful. Any other questions about this or anything else I said so far?
One more thing that I would like to share here that I learned that about meditation, that the best thing to do is, speaking of Kedusha and speaking of tefillah and how to create the patient, there is a special women's class that I go there every Wednesday that it's called in Forest Field, that we talked about guidance, about the guidance of a tefillah, and they also talk about itbodedut. And then we also mentioned that if we're trying to daven for something for goal, but davening, it also calms you down, and it also helps you to be more patient, because it helps, let's say, when you daven and after you do the meditation, you say, Hashem, I did my shtadlut, I did everything I could, but now it's up to you. I will try my best to be patient until you answer me, until you get what I need and what I want to, it's like my goal. So that's basically what I've learned, that this is also very important, like we said at the beginning, to take a moment and to relax and do the meditation and try to calm down. It's also part of when we say itbodedut, that it's important to, like, even if you're busy, it's important to dedicate 1 hour that you should calm yourself down and be itbodedut with yourself and with Hashem. Take deep breath and focus what you really want to do. And when you daven, it feels like it's really like refreshing, because we say to ourselves, okay, we're patient right now because now it's all up to Hashem, because Hashem is running the world and Hashem is the one who knows what's best for us and the best time. We just have to really try our best to slow things down and let Hashem to take the world. So that's what creates the patient also.
You're very right. I mean, it's very, very admirable if someone will take that hour daily to do it. I think I personally wouldn't, though I think it's a marvelous idea, and I think it'll be a very well spent hour. It just sounds like a tremendous investment. So it's very, very admirable if you're dedicating that amount of time to it. But yes, I mean, what Sarah's saying in general, even if we're not going to take the hour, the whole idea of giving it over to God, which normally we think of as trust, which it is, and we think of as nullification, which it is, we can also bring in the patience factor. I'm giving it over to God, and I know he's going to take care of it, and I'm just going to be patient until he does. So you're absolutely right, Sarah. Giving something over to God, you davened, you did your part, you made your physical efforts, you made your spiritual efforts, and now you're going to practice patience. So you're absolutely right. I think I'm going to stop now. I'm sort of like torn because I have just like a few more things, but I don't want to like rush through them in 5 minutes, which is what I would need to do if I was going to give 3 more techniques, some of which take a while. But I just want to like recap what we did tonight, and then maybe we'll finish this off next week and perhaps go through something else or not. Like it's like 3 more ideas, but they're a bit longer. But what I'd like to do right now is review the ideas I suggested. And I'd like it if you could commit to 2. If you want to commit to more, that's awesome. But try to find 2 that you're going to commit to. And because I think when we can make that commitment and we can really, really work on it, you will see results. And then hopefully next week, you're going to have all these success stories to say. So if someone else didn't do the work, they'll be inspired by you and they'll do the work. So the ideas I said tonight, I'm just reviewing them briefly so we can sort of process and decide, which is best for me, knowing my personality, which did I relate to the most? Turn to Hashem for help. I don't know if you can use that as a tool, but it is a tool. And that's turn to Hashem for help to take away the stress or give you the ability to be patient. When you're stressed by another Jew, really remembering that every Jew is God's essence, energy. So this is a very special person, though they might not be behaving that way, but they're really a very special person. Thinking of anger, impatience, frustration, outbursts as addictions. I don't want to be addicted. Reminding myself all the benefits I will receive by being patient as I do my work, because I need to motivate myself to do my work. Deep breathing. Really internalizing the message that impatience is harmful to me. Impatience, stress, self-harm. Like really, really internalizing that, because I'm not going to hurt myself. I've got to change if it hurts me like that. Change in the environment, and as Miriam added, which I felt was very, very significant, especially being aware of toxic people in the environment. Remembering this idea of wearing the mask, that the mask becomes the man. True for patients, true for everything in my life. I don't have to be there yet. I just have to act like I'm there, and that will change. Training myself when I'm making decisions to think long term. It's a technique of patient people. So it helps me be patient if I'm going to say, wait, what's the long-term ramifications of this, of continuing this job, of dropping this job, of taking on this volunteer position, of dropping this volunteer position. And we just spoke about meditation as a tool that requires patience and that builds patience. So those are 10 things I said tonight. I'm asking you to think of 2 that you could try to work with. So if you thought of 2, that's great. You're doing what I asked. If you don't, think of 1. And if you'd like to share with us the one you chose, or 2, that would be nice. Nice for you, because when you articulate it, it's taking more ownership and commitment, which is, of course, the idea why I'm asking. And it's also nice for other people, because you're like, oh, she thought that was valuable. Maybe it's more valuable. I thought it was sort of like whatever, but she thinks it's valuable. Let me rethink it. So does anyone have any that they, maybe new voices we didn't hear yet tonight? Anyone have what they selected that they would like to share with us? Well, I'll say for myself, because when I asked everyone to stop and think of those situations where they usually use their patience, I was shocked at how many I came up with personally. And I did jot them down. And I am going to make that commitment during those situations, which are probably my prime impatience indulgences, to wear that mask of patience. Wear that mask of patience. I will have many opportunities over this coming week. So maybe I'll have a success story to share next week, to just like wear the mask, wear the mask, wear the mask, and hopefully see how quickly it becomes me. Anyone else would like to share from any of the things that they decided that works for them?
What I do sometimes is if I'm in line somewhere and it's just super slow and I'm running, I have to go, I'm just like, okay, Hashem wants me here right now for whatever reason. Maybe I'll bump into someone who needs me. Maybe, he saved me from a car crash if I leave, too early. And that usually works. That usually is like very, very helpful.
That's great. Yeah, I do that too. And it's really good to generalize. Basically, you're just sort of envisioning that whatever's happening now is exactly what Hashem wants. And it's probably good. So maybe I'm going through this minor, usually when I'm late, I think that I'm often late, like, okay, Hashem wanted me to be late, because if I was on time, maybe there'd be this whole problem that would be on the road that I'd encounter. Because I'm late, I'm not going to encounter it, So yeah, that definitely works. Dina, is your hand raised, or is it still from the first time?
Yes. Thank
Okay.
you. Shira, I was going to say the exact same thing as you. I find that it really helps me. And I was also going to say that I think one thing I'm looking forward to is before I pray to take 2 minutes, because I know for me that if I'm like trying to get out the door and it's just keeps there's always something else to do, and then as I'm rushed, and then I'm a little bit like overwhelmed, and then I'm late, and then I'm stressed out already before like the day even started. So I know, like, if I notice that when I really take time and like the patience and I'm regulated when I'm praying, then the rest of the day is like totally fine. So I'm excited to try like meditating beforehand.
And I'm also something else that I inspired myself as I was saying it, was not letting your phone distract you when you're doing something you're not interested in doing anyway. It's like such a go-to, an excuse to stop doing this thing that I don't want to do and I'm bored of doing, and just like not allowing it to be an option. I'd love to have that liberation from I can't say the dings of my phone because I shut off all the dings. So it's not dinging, but it's just like there, like maybe something is happening that's exciting. What I'm doing now is not very exciting. And like, no, patience is an art. I'm practicing the art of patience by doing the not so exciting until it's done. So yeah, I'm excited to see how more productive the week will be when that happens. Anyone else?
What really, I'm sorry. For me, what really helps me to increase the motivation of being patient is that sometimes when I'm at work and I always think to myself, oh my gosh, I have to do that. I have to do that. Like I have so many thoughts, like sometimes it happens to me at work, or sometimes it happens to me in some situation that I feel like I'm so stressed that I need to get something that I really wanted to get and it's not going. And like I say to myself, how long it's going to take. And what really helps me when I take a deep breath, and I'd like to share with you that I have an amazing therapist that I see her for a long time. And she said to me something that really helps me to repeat to myself, that increased my intuition. When she said to me, Sarah, hang in there. Put your trust in Hashem. Just hang in there. Stay strong. Everything will fall into place. And I really observed it. I took it in myself for a very long time. So it really helps me if I go outside, or let's say if I'm at work and I have to be at work. So Baruch Hashem, they allow me sometimes to go, let's say for 15 minutes and like take a deep breath and slow things down. And it really helps me when I say to myself, when I take a deep breath and I say to myself, everything will fall into place. Hashem knows what he wants. And I say Tehillim for Shira Ma'alot Esainai. And I say to myself, Hashem knows what's best for us. You just have to relax. So That also
I think
helps
what
them to be
you're saying,
patient.
Sarah, in your language is what Shira said and what Dina said. I think all three of you are saying the same thing, which is that the patience relates to the trust, relates to the nullification to God. We can make it all one package deal when I'm stressed and I'm saying, like Shira said, I know you're doing this for a reason, a good reason. So I'm nullifying myself to you. This is the situation you want me to be in. How do I know? Because I'm in it. I'm trusting you. I'm trusting it's going to be fine. And I'm being patient. Because right now it doesn't feel fine. But I'm being patient because I know it's going to be fine because I'm trusting you. So all three of you said the same point in your own ways. And that's a very, very valid point. The patience segued into the trust, into the nullification, trust, nullification, patience. It's all like three coordinates of a very strong triangle that we can lean on, that gives us a lot of support. So that's definitely a great addition. Working on trust, which is nullification, which is patience, until I see it exactly as I know God's planning it for me. It might not look this way now, but I'm going to see it. All right. Thank you so much for everyone that attended tonight. I really appreciate it. I hope everyone took on, and not just the ones that spoke. I hope everyone took on one or ideally two ideas. And I hope you'll see wonderful results and maybe you'll share them with us next week. And next week I'll finish off and share a few more techniques that hopefully will help us on our journey to really becoming those people that really on the inside have patience and therefore are so much healthier in so many, many, many ways. It's not like the most glamorous trait people speak about, but it's a hugely important trait really for success in so many different areas of our life. Thank you so much for joining. Have a wonderful week. Looking forward to seeing you next week.